I'm Cathy Mendel, and I'm the founder and president of Thea Financial. And we are going to have a really interesting discussion. Today, we're talking about life-changing events. Now, these can be divorce, which is our topic today, but it can also be a cancer diagnosis. It could be a spouse or a partner passing away, especially if it's if it was not anticipated. It could even be the loss of a job. All of these events that can happen in our life have the potential to shake us to the core. And I can tell you, having worked with women for over 15 years, what I can tell you is that throughout the course of our lives, most of us in some fashion will bump into some of these events. The death of a spouse, of course, is usually one that we'll face, or a partner. The loss of a job. That doesn't mean that there's a break in a relationship, a cancer diagnosis. All of those things can grab us and make us reevaluate. They're disorienting. They can be very unnerving and maybe even frightening, right? The future, as you imagined, could be changing. And it's at this point that having a trusted advisor can make a huge difference. Somebody that can help guide you, help you make important decisions. I mean, this person can be a lifeline to you. Now, I want you to know that at Thea Financial, this is something that we take very seriously when our clients are going through difficult circumstances. I'll even throw this in the mix. Just retiring, okay? Giving up a paycheck and relying on your advisor to guide you through the investment choices and decisions and money management, that can be unnerving and that can shake you to the core. So, what I'm saying is that all of these things we're going to talk about today. The role of a trusted advisor. I'm not talking about somebody that just reallocates your portfolio. I mean somebody that you can really talk to. So when you are faced with a significant change like this, any type of a change, what you want to be looking for is someone who is knowledgeable and compassionate. That person can help you navigate all the questions, the financial, the legal, and frankly, the emotional decisions. That person can make a big difference in your life. So you're looking for clarity. You're looking for someone that can guide you into the choices that you need to be making in order not only to take care of you now, but also to make sure you're good for the future. So what we're going to talk about today specifically is divorce, because it has its unique planning pitfalls that you may have encountered. So as you know, many of you already know this, the tag that I use to describe who we like to work with, who our clients are, is this persona that I have in my own mind called the accomplished woman. Now, if you know us at all, you know that this person doesn't matter what the letters behind their name are. What matters is that they are this hardworking woman. I mean, in their career or in their life, they wake up before dawn. They worked hard for decades. There are days even when they could only take a quick 15-minute lunch, and many times at their desk. You come home every day feeling absolutely spent, but you do it anyway because that's who you are. Well, suddenly you may find yourself in an upending situation. Now, divorce, as you know, it's not just the end of a marriage. It's a financial reset, right? So whether you saw it coming or it took you by surprise, you are untangling shared finances. You are looking to secure your own future and make sound financial decisions. And I'm telling you, this can be very overwhelming. The people that I have had the most experience, the clients that I've had the most experience with, are those who have lost a spouse, and especially women in their mid 50s and their spouse suddenly passed away. I actually have two people I'm working with right now. This is exactly the case. Of course, how could they see that coming? One of them died from a heart attack, the other from an auto accident. And everything that they knew about their future just suddenly, it's just gone. And they don't know, there's so many decisions to make. And what do I do next? So we're going to talk about a specific situation. And I've changed her name to protect the innocent, but I'm going to call her Sarah. Now, in this case, Sarah is a 52-year-old professional. She's been married 25 years, and she did see this coming. She figured that this was on its way. And regardless of how long you've been married, and I don't care what your age is, divorce at any age is difficult. But when it happens when you've been together for so long, maybe later in life, and you've had decades of shared memories and routines and expectations, it's not just unsettling. It feels like an earthquake. Okay. Sarah was really full of mixed emotions when we met. I'd have to say there was a lot of grief, anger, uncertainty, fear, and maybe even a little bit of excitement, because finally this situation was going to be resolved. It's not just about ending a marriage. It's about separating from a person. And it's about untying the life that has been woven together for years and sometimes even decades. And when the dust settles, you're left standing and you're asking yourself, now what do I do? Okay, that's what we're going to talk about today. So starting over is one of the hardest parts of divorce, and that is the fear of the unknown. What's next? It can almost feel like stepping into, uncharted territory. And if you're in your 50s or 60s or even 70s, it's like you have fewer years behind you than, you have fewer years ahead of you than behind you. So the questions that you might be feeling, one is a big one. This is probably the number one question is, will I be financially stable on my own? The second one will be, what's life going to look like without a partner? Now, obviously, as a financial advisor and a company that helps with the money side of this, we're not counselors. But I'm telling you, having a listening ear that's not a relative can be a great idea. Okay. And, I've even had clients say to me, especially with the death of a spouse, do I even know who I am outside of this marriage? But the truth is there's no roadmap for this transition, because you are an individual. Your circumstances are unique to you. You've already survived a lot. As an accomplished woman, you're not new to resilience. You've overcome challenges already. You've had heartbreaks in your life, but this is a little different. So now you have a new navigation that you have to undertake. So we're going to talk today about understanding your new financial future. We're going to talk about smart asset choices. We're going to understand a little bit about Social Security, and we're going to be chatting about helping you create a new financial plan. The new financial picture. This is the basics. This is where it begins. Getting a full financial snapshot of where you are right now. What you're looking for is kind of, I used to call it the lay of the land. Okay. I can just say this. When my husband and I were hiking the Pacific Crest Trail, and you're walking into, I don't know if you've ever done anything like that, but hiking when you're going into the wilderness is you really rely on your map. I mean, I'm just telling you, we had downloaded all these maps and all these trails and all these elevations and where's the water. And we had all of that. And it gave us such confidence. When you're walking into a situation like this, it's like the map has been jerked out from under you. Okay. So you have to create this new financial picture. So what we are going to do is that there's some basics. Okay. First things are, you're going to gather all the documents, every financial statement, your tax returns, your credit reports. I mean, every financial document, and we're going to put them in a folder, and we're going to work through them so that you know exactly where you are. You're going to create a list of all your marital and individual assets. Okay. And not only just the assets, but the debt and any liabilities that you have. You've got to get all of that down so that you can see it clearly. And then you're going to be doing some calculations. You're going to calculate your current and your projected post-divorce expenses. What does it cost you to live now? And when that second income is gone and that other Social Security won't be there, and, are you keeping the house? I mean, there's a whole lot to talk about here, isn't there? But you're going to have to get some kind of a budget together. We can be so helpful in this arena, because the thing that you don't want to do is to become so financially constrained that this thing becomes more painful than it needs to be. So you're looking to have a clear understanding of where you stand financially, what needs to be negotiated in the divorce settlement. So when we think about that, some things that I, would recommend and say to you is that there are considerations that you have to take into account. One is real estate considerations. All right. So having a list of what you have, what's owed against it, and sometimes I'll have a client say to me, I gave up all of the retirement accounts, but I got the house. Well, that's not always the best, because number one, let's make sure you can afford the house. And number two, if and when you decide you want to sell the house, the capital gains consequences of that went from, and many of you know this, when you sell a house and you're married, and you have a joint ownership of it, your capital gains forgiveness is $500,000. In other words, let's say you bought a house for $300,000, you sell it for $600,000, you have $300,000 in gains. You don't have to pay capital gains tax on that. If you're single, it drops down to $250,000. So now there's a tax consequence of that. So you want to really take into account, maybe it would be better if I took more of the retirement accounts and we sold the house and split the profits. So there's lots of things to talk about as it comes to that. So just having the knowledge of what things are impacted by real estate. Then you have your retirement accounts. Now, if you've been divorced, you probably know this term, quadro. It's a court order to divide retirement assets. So here's the reason why it has to be done by a court order. You cannot give retirement accounts to anyone without them becoming taxable. So if I have a 401k or an IRA and I want to give it to my husband or my son and retitle it in their name, then it becomes a taxable event. A quadro keeps that from happening. In other words, if it's the 401k, it can be divided by whatever the court awards you, 40%, 50%, whatever it is, that becomes yours. It's retitled into your name with no tax consequences. By the way, if you are a spouse and your spouse passes away, I just want to bring this up because the other day I was working with a gal and her husband died, like I said, it's the same person we were talking about, very unexpectedly. And when she met with these financial advisors, they moved all of his IRAs, 401ks into her name. But she's only 54. They just put them into her name. What they should have done was left him in his name for her benefit, because now she can't touch any of that till she's 59 and a half without penalty. Okay. You have to be sure that whoever you're working with is skilled in the areas that you're going to be talking to them about, because it's not just a blanket, oh yeah, we just move these over here and we'll get them invested. It's not that simple. There's tax laws that surround all of this, okay? And access laws. So retirement accounts split, there might be a pension involved, that gets split. So there's a lot of pieces to this that need to come into play. The tax implications we just talked about a second ago, but this is actually kind of a big deal in my mind, because number one is that you still have your income. If you're still working, you'll still be having your income. But one of the biggest tax changes that happens is you were married filing jointly. Now you're filing single. It doesn't cost less to live single. Okay. It really irritates me when I'm doing planning with my clients and I have to show them what their taxes are going to be. And if I had a married person with the same exact income, it would be half the amount. And so it is what it is, right? We can't change that. But what you want to be sure is that you understand it. Because when you're doing your future budgeting and trying to plan on what do I do next, you have to have real numbers. You don't want to be caught off guard or be surprised. Okay. So when we talk about that, I like to call this reclaiming yourself. Okay. So when I say reclaiming yourself, what I mean is we're going to begin to build your own persona. If you're going through a divorce, this is the next step. The first step is figuring out the lay of the land, what's out there, what kind of debt, what do we own, all the retirement accounts, including yours, everything that has to do with the joint held assets. But the next question is what do I do after I get all that done? The divorce gets settled. You're finally able to, look at the future and go forward. The next thing that needs to happen is you're going to begin to set up accounts in your name. Now, individual accounts would be your own savings account, your money markets, your checking account where the spouse is removed. Post-divorce budget. This is huge. And in fact, we have a really good calculator on our website to help you really think through what it costs you to live. Okay. It's helpful for you because over the last 15 years in helping clients navigate some of these things, the things that come up are, well, I know what it cost us to live before. I just don't know what it's going to look like now because now it's just me. So we can help you with that, because what you want to do is you need to come up with a good budget. You need to come up with a good number so that you know if you need to make changes. And let me give you an example of that. I had a client who is her husband. Now, again, this is a death, but it's the same thing. She was staying in their condo that they had in Virginia. And the condo is expensive, really expensive, but she wanted to stay there. Well, her income's not going to cover that payment. It's just not. She doesn't make enough money on her own to do that. So the only thing she could do is to start draining down the savings. Well, we had moved the spouse's IRAs into her name for her benefit. So she did have access to them. But the problem is that once those assets are gone, they're gone. Okay. And she's going to need that for her future. So we've been able to help her wrap her head around, okay, I need to get my lifestyle expenses connected to my actual income so that she can build a future. There's nothing worse than every month being short of money. Okay. And as a matter of fact, that's a big deal in our firm is making sure that our clients don't find themselves in that situation, either in retirement or, in a case like this. So we do have a question. Once divorce is final, do you have to separate auto insurance resulting in the loss of a discount? The answer to that is yes. In fact, that's one of the next things is insurance. There's all types of insurance. So there's health insurance. You may have been on a spouse's policy. Okay. Now we need to get you your own. There could be auto insurance, homeowners insurance, life insurance, all of those insurance components that you have. All of those need to be separated. And yes, you do want to take your spouse, you don't want your spouse to be involved in that. What happens if the payment's not made, or what happens if there's an accident and they get half of the award? Okay, there's a lot of things like that. So your insurance needs would be your own health and life insurance. It would also be you need to be able to secure new policies to protect yourself. So my suggestion with that, our team is very well versed, by the way, on this particular subject, and it's a very individual subject. Sometimes they get along really well. They're just not going to be together anymore. And sometimes I've seen, spouses keep a spouse keep the ex-spouse on their health insurance policy. I actually had that the other day. Okay, that's fine. But the question is that that's not the normal case. Normally everything is separated. So insurance is yes, you do have to do that. Now you could bundle your homeowners and your auto together. Many companies will do that. You don't have to have a spouse on there. Updated beneficiaries and estate plans. All right, if you have a trust, then that's going to have to be updated. All right. If you have power of attorney, typically power of attorney over your health is given to your spouse. That may not be your first choice any longer. So those things have to be redone. Retirement beneficiaries. Let me tell you a story about that. I was working with a gentleman. This was a couple, and he's married, happily married. They've been together 16 years. We were looking at his workplace retirement account. Turns out his ex-wife was the beneficiary. Okay. Well, I have to tell you something about that, because had he have died, his current spouse would have been out cold, because whatever is on that beneficiary form is what happens by law. even if your trust says something different. The beneficiary forms trump all other documents. So you've got to be sure that you have gone through and changed those, updated the addresses, gone through and really cleaned up all that back end, because whatever is there is what will happen if something happens to you. Okay. You have a new life and you need to have all those documents reflecting that new life. This is true in a death, in a divorce, or even in some cases where you've had where you had children, you've got children that you didn't have, or you get remarried and now you have their children. And now there's the question of separating the assets so that it goes to your kids and not theirs. I mean, there's lots to talk about with this one. Okay. And then the last thing you want is your own plan for retirement again. Okay. So when the assets are divided, you need to adjust your retirement savings strategy to ensure that you stay on track. So what we're going to do if we're working together is we're going to actually we're going to clean the slate and we're going to take a whole nother look. Here's where you are. Here's what your income could look like. And we're going to help you see the future again, because you're not done. Okay. If you don't have to go this alone, but you can have a very bright and promising future if you get on top of it, so that you can see clearly what the next steps that you need to take are. And I think this is where a lot of people flounder and they go through a lot of heartache, is when they haven't done that. They've just been kind of winging it. They're just still maybe in shock. Okay. But the goal is that you rediscover, I just love this phrase, rediscover you. Okay. Once the settlement is finalized, it's time for you to rebuild. And this is a place that we shine at Thea Financial, because everything that we do is about the individual we're working with. It's not a cookie cutter, opportunity that we present to people. It's not everyone gets the same thing. It's very much based on you, your situation. I'm working with a gal right now who's been divorced a few years, and alimony is stopping. I actually have 2 clients where alimony is stopping. Now they're done. Now we have to create the plan for them with using their own retirement accounts and their assets. So there's lots of pieces to this. And what I would encourage you to do is that when you are considering, or when something like this is happening in your life, it's really okay not to have all the answers. Okay. It's okay to take one step at a time. Some days, truthfully, are going to be easier than others. There's going to be days of grief. There's going to be days of relief. All right. But with time, if you do good planning, the fear is going to fade. And in its place, there's going to be something new. And I call that clarity and confidence, and maybe even some excitement. Okay. A marriage ending does not mean that your best years are behind you. It means that you're entering a new phase of your life where you get to write the rules, you get to set the pace, and you get to prioritize your own happiness. And divorce, it's not just about loss. It's about, and I love this phrase, it's about courage, because that's truly what it takes to face this. This can be a completely, they say, I've had women say, I felt like the rug got pulled out from under me. I didn't see it coming. Some said I'm the one that initiated it. I've been unhappy long enough. Other people said I didn't even know there was a problem. Every person that comes to this place in their life, they walk into it with all kinds of situations that are unique to them. And that's why I think it's really important to find somebody that you can trust. I really highly recommend that it's not a family member. Family members, it's great to be able to cry on their shoulder or to celebrate, but it's really nice to have a perspective that's not tied to a relationship. So that's your story. It's not over with, right? And if you've been on any of our webinars, you've seen this note before, but there's a huge difference between hoping things are going to work out and actually knowing that they're going to work out. Hoping is like, it's open-ended. I don't know for sure. I'm just going to do everything I can do and just save money, but I don't know. I don't know if I have enough. I don't know if I ever will. I'll probably have to work the rest of my life. Knowing says, okay, here's where I'm at. This is what I'm going to save. Here's when I'm going to retire. This is what my income is going to look like. It takes the pressure off. and it gives you the opportunity to look further into the horizon to your own future. And I think that is just absolutely incredible. Finally, I just want to say, if you haven't engaged with Thea Financial, I would really encourage you to do that. If you're here and you're listening to this today and you're thinking, I'm going through something really rough. Now, like I said, it could be a divorce, but it could also be a death, the loss of a job, a cancer diagnosis. It could be anything. I will say that I personally, my husband was diagnosed with cancer, and I got to tell you, it spun my head for a while. He's doing great. I mean, we're getting through it, but anything like that that's big, you have to be kind to yourself, and you've also got to have somebody that you can rely on to keep your head straight and keep you going in the right direction. But if you decide you want to connect with us, Exploring Thea we will just talk. That's all it is. We're going to talk about you, your situation. We're going to look at your, where are you at right now? Where do you want to go? If you're trying to retire, your spouse just passed away, or you've had something like a divorce come into your life that you weren't expecting, we're going to just discover that together. You can ask us any question you want about us, learn all about Thea Financial, and we'll do the same. Then from there, we'll go into a deep dive. We're going to help you with your numbers, okay? Because I can tell you, financial stress just makes this whole thing worse. So get the numbers down, get a good plan in place. We're going to go behind the scenes. We're going to crunch those numbers. We're going to come back to you with, okay, here's the next steps. If that is something that you're saying, I'm telling you, I got to do this, I really want you to consider spending some time with us. We do all of our meetings on Zoom. Gives us a chance to actually meet each other. What I would say is don't pull back at this point. No one's going to push you into doing anything. One of my clients, her husband passed away. And when that happened, she came in and I said to her, don't do anything. Don't make any changes right away. The emotions are too raw and most people can't make good decisions like that. Let's just give this some time. And unfortunately, one of her accounts was held out from not with our company, and she went to change the documents on it, and she got talked into making some serious changes. I was so upset by that because I felt like she just needed time. She needed time to let the dust settle. And I'm going to tell you, if we meet, that's what will happen. We're going to let the dust settle. We're going to help you think clearly. We're going to help you get a plan together and be a partner with you through this time. Whether it's a time where you are feeling stressed or excited, doesn't matter. We're here for you. It's been a pleasure chatting with you today. Thank you for joining us. I hope this has been helpful. And if you know someone that could use this, feel free to share it. Okay, thanks again.